Military Matters.
Flames engulfed a Thailand-flagged bulk carrier after an Iranian projectile hit it near the Strait of Hormuz. A Greek bulk carrier and Japanese container ship also sustained minor damage as a result of Iranian projectiles. President Trump urging oil companies to, quote, show some guts and send their tankers through the strait. The U.S. military has no plan in place to escort those ships given the threat of Iranian mines.
So it's not over till it's over, and clearly in the Straits of Hormuz, cargo ships, a couple of tankers being hit. John will tell us more about that in the D.C. rundown. The Iranians are some wascally wabbits, and Jennifer Bukowski in for Stephanie Bell, in for Gary yesterday, and in for Stephanie today.
Yeah.
Good to have you aboard.
I can only imagine that they're being threatened with death. Like, that's just the way it is over there. They're probably in this like mindset of it's the end of the world. For them, it is. If you're in the Guard, if you're in the armed forces, it might be the end of your world. But there's that peer pressure. Like if you aren't giving it everything you've got, then you might get a friendly fire bullet in the back of the head. That's what I'm imagining is happening.
And apparently, even though we've knocked out a lot of their large, more formidable Navy ships, some of those smaller boats, John, are not being. They're still spared, and a lot of these missiles. I think there's been like almost half a dozen cargo ships and tankers now, a couple tankers that have been hit. Those are coming from land. Those are from missiles that are still, able and ready over in Iran.
We've had different reports whether they're coming from land or they're coming off the fast speed boats that have them and all. Whatever they're coming from somewhere, and we haven't wiped them all out yet.
The International Energy Agency agreeing to release 400 million barrels of oil. President Trump talking about, he's pulling a Biden. Please, don't draw down the strategic oil reserve. Please.
Well, luckily he filled that back up, though, right?
I know, but I just, don't.
That's why they call it the strategic reserve.
Well, exactly right, Jen.
Yeah, well, was that strategic for the midterms or strategic for the country? I'm just saying.
Good point.
I don't know. I don't mind. I'll pay a little bit more for gasoline, even though it hurts right now. If we can eliminate this menace called Iran, although those people are dug in. We hear about refugees that are heading to Armenia, telling the reporters there, "Hey, you've hit some of our oil. Don't do that. Hit the bad guys. We want freedom. We want to eliminate these despots, these tyrannical, oppressive, murderous leaders. But got to be careful about that."
Who's heading to Armenia?
Iranian refugees. So they are running from their government. They call their government the enemy when they're interviewed by one of the Fox reporters. They don't want to show their face on camera. They're afraid that they're even afraid
they could have relatives back home that could be killed.
The relatives, and I think they're worried that the long arm of the Iranian Revolutionary Guard might have some way to get them. After all, they have tentacles that spread to Hezbollah and Hamas and the Houthis, so they probably have some agents in other countries. When you look at the worldview of these Iranian radicals, rooted in religious fanaticism, where they believe they're going to be rewarded if they die. So what is it for them to? Where is it for them? What's the incentive for them to lay down the arms and, as President says, unconditionally surrender? They're not like Western. They don't have a Western mindset. They don't even have an Eastern mindset, right? I mean, the Japanese, they surrendered. There's a reward in heaven for these people if they die as, quote, martyrs from their worldview. That's what we're up against.
Yeah, it is.
I don't know.
And that's what the Vikings had, that kind of mindset, too. They'd be feasting in Valhalla, and so it was such a thrill to die in battle. And so the Brits did not know what hit them when those folks started washing up on their shores and killing everybody.
Yeah, right.
And the Islamic martyrs supposed to have, 72 virgins
those
awaiting
virgin
them.
factories better, the sex robots that they come up with for them.
There you go.
They're perfect. They're like white-faced beings that don't need to go to the bathroom and are there for your pleasure at all times. I don't know where they make these things, but wherever they make them, they're probably working overtime right now. Women, by the way.
You're talking about robotic sex dolls?
It's not robotic, but they're not humans, and they don't need to have human bodily functions, but they're beautiful with white faces.
You're talking about the Iranian...
the virgins that they get.
The virgins.
But women, they don't get virgins, but they get slaves if they go to heaven.
Women get slaves.
Yeah, to wait on them hand and foot.
Men slaves?
That's what I'm wondering. I'm like, well, and apparently there's no parity there.
Culture, I don't know.
Boy, this show's going south real quick. Drake, could you do some research on what radical terrorist men and women get when they go to
only get a
heaven?
man if their husband elects to have them with them, and then they're stuck with the husband.
Stuck?
What if you don't want to be with? What if you're?
What if they have a virtuous husband?
Like, if you're
That's
one
not
of
being
his,
stuck.
he can take up to 4 of
beautiful
his
thing.
wives
Oh.
into heaven with him. But women, they don't really get much of an option. The only male option they have is the husband. They had to share with 4 other women, and now they have to share their husband with 3 other women and 72 virgins. Pass.
So you make a good point here that makes me wonder, how can Democrat women do anything but defend our effort to allow the Western wannabe women and men of Iran, and there are legions of them, most of the Iranian population. Why don't the Democrat women, who are the defenders of women and don't want to have women's oppressed, I agree, why wouldn't they be in general support of this, right? If what it leads to is regime change, elimination of the theocracy, and the opportunity for the Iranian people to become more modern and more civilized and more Western.
Because
Why
they've been
aren't
hardwired for so long now, Randy, to call me a racist for pointing out anything inferior about another culture or another way of life. Oh, I'm bigoted. I'm racist. I'm just saying the things that need to be said. It's not a phobia if it's a rational fear. And if you see the way that women are treated in these cultures, you don't want them spreading in Western civilization, because I don't want to be wearing a hijab. I don't want to be, subjected to all of this nonsense this is an ideology that happens to have a religion, and it's an ideology. The radical Islam is an ideology of world domination.
There's an interesting piece of legislation being pushed through at the Capitol right now, at least being looked at, to outlaw Sharia law for Missouri.
Man. That should get bipartisan, rubber stamp, pass it yesterday support. Who could argue with that?
Well, they're saying that this is just a showpiece, that we already have the First Amendment, so you can't have Sharia law anyway, and so
have they read
this
what's
is just
going
a
on
racist stunt.
Britain right now, where there's no-go zones for law enforcement and there's separate Sharia courts?
Yeah.
Have they read
Look
that?
at what's happening in Texas. They've got a couple of these communities that they've had to address.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. I mean, some money is coming from somewhere to build whole towns. They're trying to stop the latest town where it's all halal food and it's all Muslims, immigrants living there, and then they're cloistered.
I just don't understand.
The
what
women
it is.
especially are cloistered. You'll only see them. You know when you'll see them? This is happening in St. Louis somewhat too. You only see them when it's voting day up at the polls. Then all of a sudden, there's all these burqa-clad women that you haven't seen walking around the streets, all in line to vote.
Well, John Fetterman still has his head on straight among the Democrats.
You are confident that the world is better after the death of Iran's supreme leader, the Ayatollah Khamenei, but his son...
100%.
His son is
kill every last member of their leadership.
Well, his son is now in charge, and he's considered even more of a hardliner.
Well, they should kill him too.
Yeah.
Well, maybe they will, but in the meantime.
I mean, he's got Fetterman. Come on, man. We're welcoming you into this Republican conservative tent. We'll be happy to bring you on in, brother. I'll pay the membership dues for John.
Why do I think he's not rocking a hoodie that says "Property of Allah" on it?
I know.
It's so funny because he votes against us all the time, but he's celebrated by us. And Cornyn votes with Trump 99% of the time, and he's about to get the boot down in Texas. But Fetterman does have his head on right when it comes to this issue, no doubt.
Yeah, I mean it's something else. So this whole thing now you're going to report on it later, I'm sure, during the Morning Bell and the market news. But oil's back up again. It dropped down to a little over $80, and now it's back up to high 90s. Last I saw, it's so volatile right now, and they have hit a couple of tankers there, which is not heartening at all. Meanwhile, President Trump is in Kentucky last night, stumping against Thomas Massey, and
Two oil tankers were on fire after reportedly being hit by Iranian explosive vessels.
So we got Iranians hitting the tankers in the Straits. President Trump actively campaigning against a sitting member of Congress because he voted against him on the war powers and because Thomas Massey, aligned with Ro Khanna with the Epstein file transparency thing, And
isn't that amazing? That's like still kind of in the news, but it's not all consuming because we have actual things that are happening to make the world safer right now.
Yeah, well, you're right. And Massey, on the other hand, is saying like, look, I vote with him a lot of the times. I just disagree with him on a couple things. He has backed Trump has backed a Navy SEAL, former Navy SEAL, and he's going to primary him. We'll have to see where that goes. If that Navy SEAL wins in a state where it's led by a governor who's Democrat, how that all works out. And then the heartwarming story
they need to get rid of that York Democrat governor. It's
I don't know
a fluke that they have that. And he is running for president.
Stitt? Not Stitt. What's his name? The governor of Kentucky.
Bashir.
Yeah. You think he's going to be a presidential candidate?
Yeah, he's announced it.
Oh, has he? Oh.
Yeah, he's currently head of the Democrat Governors Association, and he's multiple times I talked about this on my show a few weeks ago. He presents himself as moderate.
Andy Bashir, yeah.
Yeah, he has made multiple statements. I have clips of it. I can pull from my show sheet from a few weeks back where he's basically announced that he's running.
And then we had this story of the cops at three different levels episode the other day where the those couple of young terrorists. These people came from means. Did you see the communities, the neighborhoods that these two radical...
Yeah, the one's in a $2.5 million house.
I think that the mom and dad owned a Quick Mart or something, and the other one came from some means as well. But a heartwarming story where...
They got mean anyway.
Yeah, and cops from three different ranks, right? I mean, the leadership rank, middle management, and, cop on the beat rank, all were involved in either taking down one or both of them, jumping over the fence to help, thwart the threat. It's really a heartwarming story. And again, what would you expect? I mean, that's what you expect. People from law enforcement always do that. They run towards the danger and not away from it. So good for them. Congratulations and thank you for all of the officers and law enforcement that are looking out for us as we all have situational awareness right now. Back with the Daily DC Rundown with John in just a moment.
It's Wake Up Missouri.
hit by Iranian explosive vessels just off the coast of Iraq. At least one person was reportedly killed. Other crews evacuated to the shoreline nearby.
Well, there is a report on the Strait of Hormuz. John with the latest on the Daily DC Rundown.
Yep, that's what they're saying. An unidentified projectile hit a Thai flag cargo ship off the coast of Oman in the Strait of Hormuz, setting it on fire. Several other vessels reportedly hit by Iran. Al Jazeera says 6. The U.S. says fewer. Iran also continued attacking U.S. Persian Gulf allies. Explosions reported in Dubai, Kuwait, Oman, Saudi Arabia, and on a joint military base in northern Iraq. Kind of generating a lack of investor confidence. We'll hear more on the Morning Bell. The oil prices topping $100 a barrel again. Stock market prices sliding. And the FBI warning police departments in California that Iran could retaliate for the American attacks by launching drones at the West Coast. The FBI said Iran allegedly aspired to conduct a surprise attack using unmanned aerial vehicles fired from an unidentified ship off the coast, specifically targeted at California.
Yeah, I'm not sure that has been corroborated yet, but Iran's very effective with their propaganda machine.
Sounds a little bit like a stretch, but
yeah,
who knows?
Right. Well, they did hit Stryker. Stryker makes a lot of equipment that supports all of the technologically advanced surgery and other things, but Stryker...
they make the cots for ambulances and all that.
Yes. Stryker does ambulance cots. They do equipment for like the scope cameras and all of the support for that, the printers and the light sources.
Where they hit that? Israel?
For arthroscopy and for laparoscopy and
no, they're a U.S. company.
Yeah, they're a U.S. company, and
what do you
Iran
mean they hit
did
them?
a cyber attack.
Oh, okay.
And they said it only hit their Microsoft internal platform, whatever. But I don't think it's going to affect people getting surgery today. I want to make that clear, according to Stryker. But I mean, if Stryker is in almost all the operating rooms, or one of them in many hospitals for sure. But they may be down, but they're not out. They're not out in Iran. They're gonna fight with every tool they have, and they're getting support from the Russians and the Chinese.
Intelligence support. Yep.
And their defensive Chinese and Russian support is not what the Russians and Chinese would like us to believe, though. That one thing.
Or they're probably like, hello, Russia, China. I thought we were in this cabal of evildoers together. Where's the help? Where's the air support? We have no air support. Venezuela found out also how good of friends they can be, which is not very effective friends when it comes to going up against the United States. Might as well interact with these people now before everyone else gets stronger, right?
Yeah. Now,
because it's weakening those countries.
Yesterday, for a while, there was a report on some of the sites that there was conjecture that this mother of all bombs, that it actually stands for something else. It's not like
massive ordnance penetrator.
No, it's different than that. No, the MOP is like the bunker buster.
Okay.
This was supposed to be something else because there was this huge, looked like a mushroom cloud that they saw in Iran, and there was reports. But
they used that going all the way back to Vietnam.
Yeah, and so it's supposed to be like the unbelievable-list of bombs.
Did they use one?
No, I haven't seen it confirmed.
I saw that mushroom cloud video.
Now that they're hitting tankers, Lord knows what's going to happen.
Yeah,
Joe Biden out.
I think just local news is like the most important stuff to me, even though it's
Missouri. Steve Bucci will be with us in about half an hour, talking about the latest he knows about the Iran effort. And, I think a lot of us are beginning to think about what's next. We're hearing about Iranian refugees. Well, if people are fleeing the country, that would be the upsurgent or the insurgent coup, if you will. How's that going to leave us? Well, we'll ask Steve about that at 7:05. 7:35, Rick Ransom, the CEO of MU Healthcare, will join us about this bill that was out of committee that is going to give them some protection against, I guess, for lack of a better term, antitrust rules, right, Jennifer? That would, allow them to invest in or purchase healthcare facilities in 25 counties. And some people, I know we had Kent Hayden on, Representative Hayden, who said, I don't know, I like that idea because you take away competition and give them a special exemption,
Yeah, that's an interesting issue.
But we'll see. We'll see what Mr. Ransom has to say about that when he's on at 7:35. Now, Jill Biden, I got to pre-purchase this book, Jennifer. Not. Jill Biden's coming out with a book?
I'll buy it.
You will?
These people in these books, like I just read Gavin Newsom's, they tell on themselves all the time.
Yeah.
And there's going to be so much bravo, Sierra, in this book about the 3 weeks where the Democrats did them in between Joe Biden having the horrible debate performance and him withdrawing from the race. That's what this book is going to be about. And it's just going to be totally candid and truthful. Not.
Yeah. No.
It's going to be a lot of spin. But I wonder if she'll cop to the fact that she was basically running things. Her and a couple of Joe Biden's aides were running the country along with the auto pen. Yeah.
Well, she was leading cabinet meetings. Remember that?
Yeah.
Remember that picture in wherever they have the cabinet meetings where she's at the end of the table sort of holding forth and Joe's just sitting there with that deer in the headlights look,
Yeah.
That's frightening.
Red flags. And they barely ever had cabinet meetings either.
Yeah.
And there had many cabinet members who didn't see their president for a year and a half, only had a minute or two here with him. You're supposed to be a major advisor to the president, and you never get any time with him because he's being hidden away by his staff because they don't want anyone to know, especially cabinet members that could do the good old 25th Amendment, that he's he's not competent mentally.
What is the proper role of the First Lady? What's the proper role?
Each First Lady seems to invent it herself. I just watched Melania, and oh my God, did I love that movie. But, they take on different initiatives, and they have a lot of ceremonial duties in terms of decorating, entertaining, and being kind of an ambassador type person as you greet foreign leaders and things like that. So also, I think they need to dress well. Melania does an incredible job with that. Yeah.
Don't you think that Joe Biden...
But running cabinet meetings is not something that the First Lady does. We did not vote for so-called Dr. Jill Biden to be president. She had no business running a cabinet meeting in our country.
Don't you think Jill has some marital obligation to keep Joe out of trouble like this?
If I told you all earlier when I was a kid I had a cleft palate or a club foot, none of you would have laughed. But it's okay to laugh at stuttering. I'm not being critical of you, but think about it. It's the one place where people think you're stupid. Oh, really? I'm a hell of a lot smarter than most of you.
Well, he said that at Jesse Jackson's funeral.
Yep.
I mean, she needs to just give Joe the hook. I mean, the poor guy, he's got metastatic prostate cancer. He's cognitively impaired, and then he says stuff like that. It's just... I think it's elder abuse. He had no business
going up there and speaking.
She's 7 years his junior. At what point is it elder abuse to not say, Joe, enough. Let's go to the beach. Let's look for some seashells. I'll buy you a metal detector.
We're a couple years beyond there. But I think it's her ego. She still wants to be relevant. And so if her husband isn't speaking, then she's just supposed to sit there silently, and they're not really featured prominently, are they?
No.
But he's going to say stuff like that, and you're just letting him ruin whatever semblance of a legacy he has left.
I'm a hell of a lot smarter than most of you. I mean, how
he's
brazen.
saying that to a mostly black audience.
And he's saying it to a you're right. I mean.
This is just right after Gavin Newsom was telling a mostly black audience that I'm just like you. I have a bad SAT score and I can't read.
Yeah, I haven't read a speech in never. Oh, my. And yet we're the ones that are racist if we criticize Barack Obama's Obamacare. We're the ones that are racist if we don't like foreigners invading and across our borders and murdering and raping our citizens and taking jobs from us. That makes us racist. No, that makes us patriotic Americans.
If we're grossed out that Mamdani is pretending to be like a third worlder that eats rice with his hands while he's campaigning to be New York City mayor, we're racist. That's racist to be grossed out by that. No, it's not. And
their leaders say, remember Joe and his, about the Indians that own the Quickie Marts, remember that? I don't know.
Well, at least Hillary's in no ways tired.
I don't know, man. The hypocrisy on the left is unbelievable. Now, by the same token, when we have hypocritic people, we need to call them out as well. I think that's fair. But I don't think I'll be buying Jill's book. God love you for doing that, Jennifer.
That was kind of ironic that it's, what's the name of it? Something like Views from the East Wing. And it's like, East Wing legacy isn't there anymore, Jill, but go for it.
Well, I don't know. God love you, Jill. But I mean, you just need to protect your husband from himself. It's just dangerous to have that guy out there speaking. He's going to self-destruct in front of the world like he did. He started with the debate in 2024. Which really led to his, having to withdraw. Probably I would say that was the most embarrassing presidential public moment I can recall ever.
It was pretty bad, and it just goes to show how well hidden they'd kept up his, mental incompetence and how accustomed the people around Joe were to it that they didn't realize how bad of a train wreck that would be.
No, you're right. In another story, legislators in Jefferson City sometimes tune into the program. I know they do, and I'm challenging them again. Although it's too late now. I know you have to think like 2 years ahead. I don't understand why. Why is it that someone can't come up with a good idea in the middle of the session and it get across the finish line? Why?
Oh, they can.
Why is that?
It's called amendments. They just slap
that
those puppies
happen.
onto things.
Come on. It takes
that's
forever.
the only thing. That's the only way that anything gets done.
But I'm talking about
amendments.
major difference for the people making legislation. You don't see that happen. This story is so sad. 31-year-old Sheldon Eckerch was stunned when she learned Anthem would finally have to pay for life-changing medical treatment. This woman has a problem called small fiber neuropathy. Now, any one of you who have neuropathy or know about it, that's where you get, at best, numbness in usually toes, feet, fingers, but you can get it anywhere. But it can be pins and needles kind of a feeling, which is worse.
Yeah.
These icy, terrible feelings. Or fiery feelings. That's what this small fiber neuropathy can do. Makes her limbs feel like they're on fire.
Yeah.
Anthem had repeatedly denied coverage for something called IVIG. That's basically antibody infusions, immunoglobulin infusions. And they're used for a number of things, but in this case, there's some very solid evidence that it's helped by that. It costs about $10,000 an infusion. The kind of stuff that insurance ought to cover instead of, every blood pressure pill, every, anti.
And then it works, so your limbs don't feel like they're on fire.
So Anthem had denied it repeatedly, and finally in February, the Virginia Bureau of Insurance overturned the denial. After, are you ready for this? Parents had paid $90,000 pulled out of the father's retirement savings.
Huh.
My mom was sobbing. My dad was on his knees sobbing. I don't think I've ever seen him cry like that, said this woman.
Wow.
So legislators, if you want a path to victory on earth and maybe in heaven, not that you earn your way to heaven by most good theology that I know, why don't you think about cranking down on pre-authorization process in the first place and denials in the second. My daughter spends a lot of time doing that. It is so frustrating, so very frustrating for everyone involved. And in this case, a serious illness that could be helped, and people. This is what I love. The company said IVIG did not, quote, align with our evidence-based standards. Yeah, the evidence being we need to maximize our profits. That's the evidence. She said the company respects the external. So they had an external reviewer that said, look, this stuff seems to work. So you need to cover it.
Huh. How often do you need this $10,000 treatment?
Healthcare is, look, guys, you better watch out. You better figure out what you're going to do with your healthcare when AI takes your job, or if we go into a recession, or, it's not a matter of when, or if. We always go into a recession. That happens sooner or later. And I don't see things getting better unless we allow the market to work. And, the government needs to crank down on these companies that continue to deny and deny. And sometimes they just wear you out, and they just know you're just going to stop fighting. And so you just throw up your arms and say, I don't know.
Yeah.
I told you the story. I called on one. I got one pre-authorization person on the phone, and I said, hey, I'm recording this call. You're recording this call. I'm recording this call, and I'll share it with my audience and with the permission of my patient. Oh, that's the end of this call. I have to go. They said I have to call a supervisor. Well, that's the end of this call. I can't talk to you anymore. I said, what are you afraid of? If you're denying something, if you're going to deny this, and based on solid evidence, on truth, on science, what are you afraid of? Why not? Let's share it with the world.
Yeah.
Well, we can't do that. You're going to, come on. I said, we'll see how this all turns out. If it turns out favorably, I probably won't share it. And they wanted to cancel the call. I finally got a doctor on the line, and the doctor, gave me half of what I wanted. She sort of patronized me. Dr. LK 10356 or something. They don't even give their name, the cowardly doctors that sit at these prior authorization.
Well, those doctors are really going to be replaced by AI.
If you're a physician that's part of that, hey, 573-874-9390, call me. Let's have a conversation. I'd welcome that. Hey, but look, do what you can to support a pushback against tyrannical insurance company policies. And that means talking to your legislators. When we come back, another caution about marijuana, about THC, about cannabis and what it can do to your head on Make Missouri Healthy Again. Stay tuned.
It's Wake Up Missouri.
in the last year or three that I think I have more people that say they use cannabis than they use alcohol on a regular basis. It's
no way.
Yes, it is ubiquitous, and which is fine. That it's legal, and that's good. I mean, everyone uses their mood altering substance, whether it's food or alcohol or cannabis or more. I mean, everyone has their Zyn. Zyn, that's a mood altering.
I should say mind altering. Alcohol.
These are psychoactive compounds: nicotine, caffeine, ethanol, cannabis, marijuana. It's all right. It's all kratom, whatever. It's all mind altering. What are you laughing at, Drake?
I just wouldn't categorize shrooms with weed and all the rest of the stuff.
Drake wanted to make sure we got that in there, ladies and gentlemen. Producer Drake Whitman. A study out of Washington State University found that people that consumed even modest doses of THC, 20 milligrams or 40 milligrams, versus placebo, they vaped it. They used 120 volunteers who regular cannabis users. Yeah, I'll sign up for that study, they said. And then they did 21 different memory tests: verbal, visuospatial, prospective memory, like remembering that you have a task to do in the future. Okay. Source memory, like I remember that we talked about a story on Tuesday, and I don't remember if Jennifer or where did I hear that? Jennifer or Gary or Mike or Sean? Where did I hear that? Okay. So that's sort of source memory, like where did it come from? False memory, misremembering something.
Wow.
Now listen up, ladies and germs.
So criminal defense attorneys should take note of that.
The most pronounced
you can ask witnesses about whether they use cannabis.
The most pronounced effects were seen in false memory and source memory.
That's huge for a courtroom testimony.
What does it do? What does it mean for it was really common, said the chief researcher, for people to come up with words that were never on the list. So they were asked to remember a list of words. Recall. And they came up with, now this brings to mind the things of when people are, a lot of therapy these days is like going back to your childhood and were you abused? And so maybe, could it be that people are remembering abuse that didn't exist? Could it be that thing? I don't know. I'm speculating here. I'm just saying participants who used cannabis also had more difficulty identifying where the previous learned information originated. So now you have a situation where we could be creating a society where you point the finger at the wrong person and you don't remember.
And you think you're telling the truth.
Who told you? And it's a reality. These kinds of memory distortions could have serious implications.
That's the thing. Like a false memory, you don't know it's false.
Eyewitness
interviews.
You think
you remember it.
Yep. What about relationships? What about your marriage? What about your boy and girlfriend? What about you remember
that's
things?
Like what if you now remember your husband called you this or that?
If you have something you need to remember to do later, you probably don't want to be high at the time you need to remember to do it. I'm telling you, be careful with cannabis. Just be careful with it, guys. There's a real research gap in this stuff.
I'm going to stick with my red wine.
There was content memory, which is called recalling personal experiences. Now, good news, that did not show a significant effect. But in terms of professional things, eyewitness things, I don't know. I'm just cautious about new things that become widespread before we fully understand the impact on people and how people relate to other people and to their world. So just be careful. That's all. That's Make Missouri Healthy again today. Maybe it's Make Missouri High again. That's what we call it.
Same initials.
Steve Bucci ain't high. Guarantee that. He'll be with us in a few. Stay tuned.
Disaster this is for colleges, for the players, for the families, ruining everything.
It's your morning addiction.
You know, these people that are, they're demonic.
Wake Up Missouri with Stephanie Bell, the Zimmer News team.
I want to try to earn their support, and I'm going to be very open and honest with them. And at the end of the day, all I can do is do my job.
And now, introducing your host, Randy Tobler.
2 oil tankers were on fire after reportedly being hit by Iranian explosive vessels just off the coast of Iraq. At least 1 person was reportedly killed. Other crews evacuated to the shoreline nearby. This was a significant development on the ground. All of this taking place in another part of the Gulf. An Iranian drone slammed into an Omani oil storage facility, the largest one in the country of Oman.
Well, that's reporting on what has now been an escalation to involve oil assets directly, tankers, online depots, and the war goes on and escalates. To help us sort this out, none better than our friend Stephen Bucci, of course, who has served this country nobly, valiantly in many, many capacities over the years, and now joins us with heritage, of course, as well, joins us on Wake Up Missouri. Steve, this is welcome into the program. This seems like maybe a pivot point in the war. Is this going to tip the hands of some of those Gulf states to go on the offensive?
Well, first, thanks for having me back on the show. Second, yes, I think this has the potential to do that. Obviously, if nothing else, it's going to cause us and the Israelis to adjust our target packages to go after, more of the vessels that the Iranians are using for this, more of their facilities, and possibly their oil infrastructure to put pressure on them to not do this particular set of actions. President Trump has warned them directly about that, but their backs are against the wall. I don't know if the warning is going to help, but I think if we start adjusting, because we've got a bunch of target packages, Randy. We've got, we started with their air defense systems and radars. Then we went to command and control nodes at the strategic level and then down through the other levels of war. Then we've got all the missile launchers, or as many of them as we can, and the naval vessels of some import. And then we're going to manufacturing capabilities, so they couldn't get ballistic missiles back again. But clearly, now that Iran has decided to kick this part up, we're probably going to go back to the vessels, back to the ports that they stay in, and probably do some more active patrolling over the areas where the tankers are sailing, not just in the Straits, but this one wasn't on the Straits. It was out a little further. So some adjustments will be made. Hopefully the Arab states will start protecting their own ships as well, and bring some more pressure on Iran.
Steve, the FBI just put out a bulletin warning California law enforcement that Iran allegedly aspired to launch a surprise drone attack from a ship off the West Coast targeting California as retaliation for U.S. strikes. Officials are saying it's not imminent and Iran's capabilities have been degraded. But how credible do you see this threat, and what does it tell us about gaps in our homeland drone defenses?
Well, it's I don't think they're going to get one of their big drone carrier ships. They had a couple of ships. I think we've sunk all the ones that we knew about that are like converted tankers. So they're like small aircraft carriers, but only for drones, not for regular aircraft. It would take them a long time to get from Iran to our West Coast to do that. However, we don't know what's sitting on somebody's, cabin cruiser on the West Coast that has been here for a while. So it is credible from the standpoint of a 1 or 2 drone attack. They're not going to get swarms of drones or anything like that anytime soon. So, our Coast Guard, together with our other parts of our defense structure, because when you're talking about doing something from the coastline, that doesn't just include Homeland Security. That then includes the Department of War also. All of the naval assets on the West Coast can kick in. Our very powerful missile defense radars can also pick up drones.
They can pick up drones? Because we see in the war now, like it's only the drones that are getting through, and they're all on high alert and with not nearly the border like that California would entail, the whole state.
Yeah, that's true. But remember, over there's a lot of targets coming in. There's a lot of missiles and a lot of drones, and a few of them get through. The level of attack I think that Iran might be capable of towards our homeland would be a much smaller scale, much fewer numbers of vectors coming in of the different kinds of drones, or I don't think they're going to get any missiles over here anytime soon. So it's a little simpler task to pick those up. And as I say, we have not only coastline defenses, things in the Coast Guard, which when we're not at full-scale war is part of DHS, and the Navy out there. I think we're probably in pretty good shape. But again, we don't know how much of this is just bravado on the part of the Iranians and how much is real.
That's Stephen Bucci. He's visiting fellow for Special Ops and Disaster Management at Heritage. And Colonel Bucci served as a Army Special Forces officer, top Pentagon official, led deployments in the Middle East and other places abroad. And he's our national security go-to in these moments of a lot of tension in the world. And, of course, it has a lot of impact on our national economic and real security as well. He joins us on Wake Up Missouri.
Colonel, something the Pentagon hasn't talked about much at all with this conflict, and probably shouldn't, but you can, is the role of special forces, special operations in a campaign like this, and especially about maybe working with forces on the ground there in regime change.
Well, that is a core mission for certain parts of our special operations community. The Central Intelligence Agency also has a capacity much smaller than DOW's, but very fulsome because they're mostly guys who used to work for us. It's called their ground branch. They can also go in and do that kind of lash up with indigenous forces. At this point, I have not seen indicators of that or heard about any of it. It is possible, but probably when there's a little more going on that they can connect with and then amplify. They could also be used going in and getting a specific target. If they wanted some piece of communications equipment or an individual, not just to eliminate them, like to shoot something at them, but actually get that person either as a rescue or as a deterrent for the enemy, you can also use special operators to do that. But that stuff that's pretty high adventure and very risky. We do it all the time in the movies, but in real life, that's a higher level of risk than I think the president is really ready to start doing. But in the future, as more of their internal security capacity gets drawn down, that could be something that's on the table.
Couple of questions before we leave you, and I know you've been working from dawn to dusk as, of course, an expert in many areas, and I know you have a TV hit coming up here in just a few minutes. Cyber attack reported from Iran to the internal workings of Stryker, a huge medical equipment supplier to operating rooms, EMS. I mean, they're everywhere. They're universal. And also, what about this mother of all bombs that was allegedly maybe dropped yesterday, but then I didn't see any more? Those two issues. Cyber attacks inside America from Iran and MOAB.
The cyber attack, Iran has a pretty decent cyber capacity, offensive cyber capacity or a hacking kind of capacity. Not at the level of China or Russia, but they're not to be just brushed off. We got to be on our toes and looking for it. And I know that has been going on. the hit on Stryker, that could have been something that they had hacked in to try and get their intellectual property at some point in the past, had something left there, and now they've keyed it since then. As far as the mother of all bombs, are really big penetrators are still on the table. Those are the ones we used back last year against the nuclear facilities. It may be that now we are heading into that phase again where we've identified some of those more deeply buried facilities, and now they're bringing in the big penetrators to take those out. Those things can reach down far enough that they essentially do what 10, 15 years ago we would have had to use a nuclear device to get to the target. They penetrate that deeply, and then are big enough that they do the same kind of damage that would have required a nuke before, without all the other stuff that a nuke puts on the table, the radiation and that sort of thing. It's a conventional device, but it gets way down in the ground before it goes off.
So this is one I read about, massive ordnance air blast. It's like you say, it's non-nuclear, but the mushroom cloud that we saw on X yesterday looked like a nuclear cloud. It was bizarre.
Yeah. They're pretty amazing. They're really big bombs. You have to fly them in like cargo aircraft.
Do you think they would use one of those to recover all the nuclear materials that they developed and bury them, or do you think we're going to want to go in and retrieve those materials?
It would be better to try and get it and get it out of Iran altogether. That's tough to do. It's not like a box full. It's a bunch. But burying it's a second choice, or at least making it so it's really difficult to access it and then to use it after the fact. But that's a level of targeting. I don't have that information of which of those two they're going to use. I think the burying it's a lot easier than going in and getting somebody to grab it and try and exfiltrate it.
All right. Well, a lot of risky business going on.
Definitely.
Escalating assets, meaning oil assets of the Gulf states going on. A couple of tankers hit. I know you'll be keeping your finger on the pulse. And if we can, we'll talk to you next week. Sound good?
That's great. At our normal time would be super.
We will do that at our normal time. Steve was flexible this morning because we've got some scheduling things going on. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
It's my pleasure. Have a great week. We'll talk to you next time.
Okay. See you then. Hey, when we come up, Christy and Corey sitting in a tree. Do they need to have a lawyer? Stay tuned.
ING.
It's Wake Up Missouri.
privilege to have someone of the caliber of Steve Bucci, who's been there and done that in that theater. He was the commander of a Special Forces battalion.
Wow.
3rd Battalion, 5th Special Forces. And we're really very fortunate to have him. So we thank him for being with us. He's going to be with us weekly for the next few weeks as long as this thing's going on, and he always answers the bell. Now, this whole dust-up the other day with Christy Nome, Jennifer's in for Stephanie, being asked by the Congresswoman, very crass testimony, did you have sex with Corey Lewandowski? And she said, well, I can't believe Mr. Chairman Christie did. I can't believe that they're asking this question. She didn't really answer the question.
She certainly did not answer the question that was pointed out repeatedly because she was under oath, and she knows that Republicans might not always have control of the Department of Justice and doesn't want to potentially get herself into a perjury trap.
Why didn't the chair at that point say, what does that have to do with anything with her leadership? I don't know.
Well, because if you look at this contract, it's Republicans. House Republicans are now looking into nearly $250 million of our dollars, Randy, that were spent on her ads featuring her on a horse by Mount Rushmore and all these various costumes that she ran on Fox News and all over the place.
About self-deportation.
Mm-hmm. But it featured her prominently, constantly, and that is a lot of money. And some of the contracts, one of them went to a company that had only been created 11 years prior. So there are some serious questions being raised. 11 days, excuse me. Yeah, you're right.
And they'd had no prior business of that sort.
So there are questions being raised like, where did that's a significant amount of money. I mean, you could buy a few things with $220 million.
And that company was owned by the husband of, was it her campaign spokeswoman? I think so. There was a relationship between one of their subcontractors and her campaign manager or spokeswoman.
So there's some scrutiny about, well, did Corey Lewandowski have a role in these contracts and did he get a cut, basically? And I think these are valid questions, and that's where maybe the relevance of their special relationship came into being. Also, I mean, she put a bedroom into a luxury aircraft that she bought with our money that they were using. So, I'm troubled by this, and it's House Republicans that are looking into what happened to that money.
Are you any more troubled by this than, the incestuous relationship between former government officials and companies that then, through lobbyists, do business with the government or want business from the government? I mean, it's just that some do their business on a golf course, some do it in a bed. I'm sorry.
She got vetted.
What's the difference?
She's the one that got confirmed by Congress. She's the one that got vetted. She's the one that was supposed to be running that department, not him. He didn't go through the hoops. He didn't get the nomination of the president, the advice and consent of the Senate, our elected representatives. Mm-hmm. So he did not have business running this department. And so I think there are legitimate questions about what went down and what happened to that money. And I think they might need to lawyer up.
Yeah, it sounds like, I think there was a story that came out that the CEO of the company was married to her spokesman at DHS.
Right, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
But I mean, I don't know. I mean, this is just another form of lobbying from where I stand.
It sounds like graft.
I mean, come on. It's like
pretty effective lobbying.
There's sex, there's the golf course,
we all
there's the
have friends
expensive
who are
5-star.
talented. I get that.
Yeah.
But this is extra shady. Maybe. We'll see.
Has America been fair to Donald Trump? The people
Rick, talk to us about something we've heard from Randy time and time again, and that's operating small rural hospitals at a razor-thin margin coupled with basically low patient volume.
Yeah, the challenge is one that is not unique to our region, to Missouri, and in fact, it's really something that's a national phenomenon. And there are several competing factors or variables that make it really hard to operate a hospital in a smaller community. Having enough volumes to attract and keep physicians happy and busy, having enough inpatient volumes to warrant staffing and inpatient service. That coupled with low reimbursement from a lot of the large commercial insurers makes operating a hospital outside of some of the major metropolitan areas even more challenging.
This Missouri House bill would let the University of Missouri Board of Curators and MU Healthcare partner with or manage hospitals and facilities in 25 rural counties around Columbia. Has MU Healthcare already been approached by any specific rural hospitals in that 25 county zone that want to partner or be acquired? Without naming names, if you can't, what kinds of conversations are happening?
Well, I don't have anything to announce or share in terms of new relationships today, but what I can describe is that there are several ways that we work with hospitals in that area, that 25 county area today. Specifically, we have a contract with Herman Hospital where we provide emergency medicine, physician coverage, as well as inpatient hospitalist coverage. We have a similar relationship at Moberly. We work with other hospitals in that region to provide access to some of our maternal fetal medicine specialists to be able to support NICU patients that are out in rural hospitals so that they don't necessarily have to come to Columbia for care. So while I don't have anything new to announce right now, what I can tell you is that we have several different contractual relationships, all designed with the idea of trying to preserve access to care in areas outside of Columbia and do whatever we can to support care being local there.
Rick, one of the concerns that Representative Hayden has made, which is, I think, a general concern that would apply to any enterprise, is, what about, you give someone some antitrust immunity, they get a foothold in a large geographic area and have a market dominance. What does that mean when people pony up to the bar and have to pay the bill? Where's the competition? You can just crank up the rates all you want, right? That's the argument.
Yeah, no, so I appreciate the argument from Representative Hayden, and there are a couple things that I would say in response. So one, the 25 county area that we are seeking the legislative protection for is not an area where there has been a huge amount of hospital or public company interest in stepping in to support these rural hospitals, right? So this idea that for the 4 hospitals that have already closed in the last 6 years, where was the competition that was interested in trying to preserve local access to care? So the first thing I would point out is there is the idea of competition, and then there is the reality of who is able to provide care in this particular part of the state of Missouri. The second thing I would point out is that the legislation is specifically only seeking protection for the transaction, right? So if there is a hospital or a physician organization or another health services company that wants to affiliate or become part of MU Healthcare, becoming part of MU Healthcare would be protected. That does not include antitrust or other types of legal protections for other kind of bad behavior. So, for example, if I were to engage in price fixing, there's nothing in this legislation that would protect me or the university from that type of bad behavior. So the legislation is fairly narrowly focused to allow transactions that will help preserve the continuity of care in our 25 county service area.
Yeah, and to bring it down to the granular level, I guess you could envision a scene where with investment involvement, maybe a doctor or a specialist is placed there now and then, and the recommendation is made for something that happens at a higher level facility than the local hospital can do, that patient can still decide to go wherever they want to go. There's no coercion implied here that they would have to go to MU. They could go to Boone or St. Luke's or Mercy or anywhere they wanted to, right?
Yeah, that's absolutely right, and people make that choice today. And there's nothing in the legislation that changes the ability for patients to choose where they go.
Okay, we're talking with Rick Ransom. He's the CEO of MU Healthcare concerning some antitrust immunity and in order to give them the enabling legislation to help grease the wheels of some investment and sustain rural healthcare in 25 counties here on Wake Up Missouri.
Rick, we see this the restoration of these rural hospitals in mid-Missouri in our listing area being a real uphill battle. But on the outpatient side, so much is being done in healthcare now. Is there kind of a mixed model out there where, you may not have the inpatient beds, but you'll have close to at least limited services along the outpatient lines?
Absolutely. And going to some of the variables that affect whether or not an inpatient hospital is sustainable in a smaller community, when you look at what MU Healthcare has done in Booneville in Mexico, we got involved after those hospitals had already closed. But within months, we responded by opening temporary clinics first and then building permanent outpatient facilities. So in Fulton, that included adding imaging and expanded lab services in our existing family medicine clinics. In Booneville, we built a 14,000 square foot multi-specialty clinic with primary care, urgent care, and then some advanced imaging capabilities as well as lab and therapy. So this idea that even if an inpatient facility isn't sustainable, that the community needs the right level and right types of outpatient care.
What are we going to do about the missing link in those very jurisdictions, which is emergency stabilization?
Yeah, so the volume or logistical considerations with whether or not an emergency department is sustainable there is maybe one of the biggest sore points as we look at what communities would prefer and then what is sustainable long term. And the idea of rural emergency hospitals, which is a fairly new phenomenon, the idea of urgent care pluses that have some of the technical and staffing capabilities of an emergency department, those things become, I think, really attractive and important to try to consider when there just is not enough volume to sustain an emergency department in a particular community.
Yeah, I know those are evolving sort of, I guess, pilot things that are allowed through Medicare and Medicaid, and they're still working on that, I know, and I think that's probably going to be, there's probably a best fit there that still is yet to be determined. Well, Rick, thanks for coming on and taking a good swing at a few high, hard fastballs. Good job on that. And we'll see where it all goes. We'll continue to keep our eye on it. I guess it passed out of committee, and we'll see when and if it comes up for a vote, and continue to follow it. Thanks so much for being with us. Appreciate it.
Thank you all.
Okay. Yeah, great answers to tough questions. And maybe you all have an opinion. 573-874-9390. You've heard from Representative Hayden last week, and now Rick Ransom. And we'll reach out to Boone, who's a player in these communities in terms of getting some incoming referrals from those communities. I know that. See if they want to weigh in on the conversation as well. We will reach out to them. John, what's coming up when we come back?
Who's the big hairy guy shouting O-H-I-O?
I know what this is.
Sounds like someone Drake's going to scrimmage against later this afternoon. I don't know. We'll see when we come back.
It's Wake Up Missouri.
Yep, it's Bigfoot season in Ohio. Numerous reported sightings of the hairy beasts, up to 10 feet tall, have been reported in what they call the gloomiest corner of Ohio. Even some folks suspecting an entire family of Sasquatches could be migrating through the area. At least 7 Bigfoot sightings in the last month in northeast Ohio, mainly around Akron and Youngstown. One driver said they were passing the Tinkers Creek area where a 6.5-foot lean brown Bigfoot appeared in their lane, but going against the flow of traffic. Bigfoot Society said they were told by the driver they were so close that her daughter could have reached out and hit the Bigfoot with her arm. She was so freaked out she couldn't turn around and go back and take pictures. One guy posted on X, "Who would have known that cell phone cameras apparently don't exist in northeast Ohio?" Bigfoot Society says there's a green highway theory that a family of the beasts is migrating through the area. Now there is a big contest being sponsored by Video or Believable Photos of a Sasquatch in Ohio by none other than Yeti Coolers.
Now, for those of you who are just joining us, we did a story earlier out of Washington State University that I highlighted that found that tetrahydrocannabinol, the active substance in cannabis, may create memories. It may reshape memories. People that were vaping it at modest doses in testing had some false memories and didn't remember the source of said memory. I'm just saying.
It could be that, does anyone know if Gary Nolan is on the loose in his home state? Could
right.
that be
He could easily been mistaken for one.
He's a big guy.
Did they do a cannabis audit on these sightings?
They talk about Momo the monster, Missouri's
Yes.
Bigfoot, and they say it smells terrible. Maybe it adds a little more meaning to the phrase of skunkweed, So maybe Bigfoot's partying,
Maybe
I guess,
the people that think they saw Bigfoot are partying. I'm just saying.
And forgetting to get their phones out. If I saw a Bigfoot, I'm going to have some pictures and videos of that.
Yeah, you caught the Chinese balloon. You could easily catch the Bigfoot.
Yep.
Looking at the 573-874-9390 text line, Paul says very hospital adjacent.
Gary's going to kill me if he
Based
hears
on
that.
my observation,
No one tell him.
MU hospital is being stretched to the max because of the wide geographical area of patients that get funneled there. John says expand in Moberly. We just moved here to get out of Como. All right, so we haven't had a lot of people weighing in on whether or not MU should have an antitrust exemption, but MU Healthcare. We'll see.
How about, has anyone seen Bigfoot and or Gary Nolan lately?
That's interesting.
I'm just kidding. We
Gary
see Gary
Nolan.
Nolan.
Gary Nolan sighting.
We'll find out at 9:00 if that was Gary that's being spotted up in Ohio.
Or maybe Brian Hansen.
Oh, yeah. Maybe they're the family of Sasquatches. Oh, boy. Yep.
573-874-9390, the number here on Wake Up Missouri. Jen's in for Stephanie today, and we haven't talked. Well, we've talked about it, but it is really, I think, going to be a top of the fold story in the next week or two because spring break is upon us. The lines are 2 to 3 hours long.
Yeah.
And they're going to take another vote today on keeping on DHS funding with some kind of, it's not going to go anywhere, right? Because
isn't this ridiculous, though? I mean, DHS is shut down right now thanks to Democrats at a time when we've gone to war with Iran or we're conducting an operation in Iran or whatever you want to call it.
President Trump wants the Department of Homeland Security. He wants TSA. He wants FEMA. He wants the brave men and women of our United States Coast Guard to receive their paychecks. And he wants this department to be fully funded and fully reopened. And so to any American out there who is struggling without a paycheck, we know there's more than 100,000 of you across the country. To any American out there who is showing up to an airport and facing incredibly long wait times and lines, Call your Democrat member of Congress and tell them to fund the Department of Homeland Security. That's what President Trump wants to do, and it's completely ridiculous that the American people are suffering as a result of these partisan games that are being played.
Maybe I should call.
And Hakeem, yes, I was in the Thriller video. Jeffries said, well, they just want to carve out the ICE part. That's all. They'll be happy to fund it. And of course, Republicans aren't going to take that bait. They're not going to capitulate. I don't know where it ends. When we come back,
I'll be angry tweeting from line if I'm in a line tomorrow.
A mobile mechanic fixed my problem.
We got a 2015 Ford here. The client's saying that his taillights are staying on, and he doesn't know why.
Hey, bud. I got another car for you. So my taillights, you can see up there, and they're on as if I'm hitting the brake. I think a sensor has gone bad because I basically right now have to pull this back and they shut off.
I like this, Dave. I like that, Dave. All right, cool. See if we're still on.
Well, that's the beginning of a YouTube video that was the beginning of an interesting journey with my brake lights being on all night. Tuesday night, yesterday morning.
Even when the car's off, the lights are staying on?
Brian Hansen, star of the Gary Nolan Show, said, Randy, why are your lights on? I said, because I got a problem. And I played that video because I just want to ask you, how many times in your life have you become cynical because maybe you go to the DMV and, you know, the old jokes about the DMV and you just don't feel like they really care or you're just another number. How many times have you had a problem and maybe you're a boss and you got certain employees that own the problem. They own the problem. They want to find the answer for you. And others don't. So you get cynical over time. It's like, man, sort of the not my job thing seems to be pretty pervasive in many places. Drives bosses crazy, drives customers crazy. So the other night I had this problem and I finally tracked it down. I watched this YouTube video and by the mobile mechanic. And I thought, okay, no problem. So I'll go and I tried to get the part. This little $3 button that goes on the brake lever, and when you release the brake, it pushes up against a switch and turns off your brake lights. Well, my little button fell out, and I thought, no problem. I'm just going to get. Well, I was told the button is obsolete. Went to try to get it, and I was told it's no longer because I got a 2015 truck. And I thought, oh no, I got to buy a whole new brake lever. I got to do that. Guess what I did, John Marsh?
Disconnected the battery? I don't know.
That your taillights are staying on, and you notice in the floorboard that you got some plastic looks like this and super brittle. You probably need one of these bushings. So we're going to take this right here. Here's the part number.
You know who that guy is? That guy's Azen out of North Carolina. Mm. I called the mobile mechanic on a
like
YouTube
Senator
video.
Kennedy, but yeah.
I saved myself several $100s. I said, Mr. Mobile Mechanic, what's your name? I said, I'm here in mid-Missouri, and I'm being told I can't get this part. And he said, well, here's the part number right there. Let me see. I said, I can't make it out. He said, I'll call my distributor, see if he's got it. I was able to find my part locally because it was a different number, I think. And lo and behold, I slipped it in just like the mobile mechanic. So, Azen, you are a good man. I'm going to send Azen a few bucks because he owned my problem. And it's a good lesson, I think, for all of us. We all want to be related to and relatable, right? We all want to be meaningful. Well, if you want to be meaningful today, own someone's problem. Help them solve it. You'll be remembered. So thank you, Azen, the mobile mechanic in North Carolina.
That's pretty cool.
That was pretty cool. It was a good fix because I was panicking.
Nothing like a cheap fix on a big old truck.
Yeah. Stop. Well,
guys and gals.
What I was thinking was I was going to maybe get one of these bumpers that you can put on your coffee table glass, self-sticker bumper, so it doesn't scratch the wood underneath or whatever, Mm-hmm. And I was going to just stick that up there. That was my backup solution. I was not going to put in a whole new brake assembly pedal lever thing. I wasn't going to do that. So I got fixed.
Well, and that switch on your brake lights doesn't just control your brake lights. I know it frees up your torque converter on your transmission, and I think it's also responsible, that same switch, if I remember, That's the one that kills your cruise control when you step on the brakes as well.
Yeah.
So that whole switch does a lot of stuff.
Yeah, it's a big deal. And so, but I thought this guy was so friendly. I said, "Is this Mr. YouTube mobile mechanic?" He says, "He sure is." And I said, "What's your name?" "It's Aiden." I said, "What is it?" AZEN, just like Aiden, but with a Z. And he was just the nicest guy. So thank you, Mr. Azen, mobile mechanic. And I know there's a lot of you out there are exactly like Azen. You own the problem. And if you aren't someone that does that, if you say, "Not my job, I don't have time," well, think that through the next time when you decide you may want to say that. It'll make you feel good that you made a difference, and, that person will be grateful.
You know what makes me feel good?
What?
Playing pickleball.
Ah,
yeah.
There you go.
And apparently this lady got a pickleball injury in California. Did you see this story?
No.
She goes and tries to get her Medicare insurance to cover it, and her Medicare wouldn't cover it. You know why?
Why?
Because according to Medicare, she had been in hospice for 2 years. Complete Medicare fraud. Someone got her Medicare number. This is a CBS investigation.
Yes.
They said, "You're in hospice, so you can't have a pickleball injury. We're not treating your pickleball injury." She's like, "Are you kidding me? Do I look like I'm in hospice?"
Oh, my. So someone had...
She's a retired doctor. Someone had stolen her number.
Wow.
And this is just one case of many, many happening in California where you're seeing a 1,500% increase in hospice companies since 2010.
Sounds like Somali daycare.
And it is. CBS News went to some of these places. They showed, look in the window. There's just mail, no furniture in there, a bunch of mail on the floor. It's obviously not an operating hospice.
It's a shadow operation.
And they're billing all kinds of money.
69-year-old Dr. Lynn Ianni was, according to Medicare records, dying in hospice care 2 years ago. Something she discovered when she sought physical therapy for a pickleball injury.
And I said, "What? What are you talking about?"
Ianni's Medicare number had been stolen and used by a company to enroll her in hospice care, which she obviously didn't need.
Just to think you're literally without coverage because of some ridiculous, fraudulent thing.
Yeah, so people are without coverage, plus crooks are getting rich. And, the states are supposed to oversee the Medicare. The feds pay it. The states are supposed to be making sure it's all on the up and up. And California obviously has not been doing that. And I cannot wait to, I'm scared to see actually how much money has been stolen by programs like daycares and hospices and stuff like that out in California.
I've burned up several copies of the Constitution that I bought on parchment paper. Because, when you take parchment paper, there's sometimes some hidden. You ever see that old thing where there's hidden text?
Yeah.
You put lemon on it, and then you flame it. You heat it up, and the lemon comes out. I have looked for where Medicare and health care provision for the citizens are in the Constitution. I can't find it. And I can't find daycare. And I can't find a lot of things. I can't find CRP. I can't find subsidies.
Can you find giving people rides to the doctor and to daycare?
And once in a while, I'm flaming that Constitution so hard, and I just can't get that text to come out. What am I doing wrong, John?
Maybe you should check the Bill of Rights.
I've tried that too, and it doesn't say the Bill of Rights to have taxpayers pay for my health care.
Or the right to be billed, right?
Well,
or the right to be billed. It doesn't say anything that the government can ongoing plunder my labor.
This is even worse than that. This is crooks stealing the money that we've allocated towards health care.
But it's because there's a federal program that's too easily built. Don't give weeds a seed bed to grow in, and they won't grow.
Well, there's a lot of them growing out in California. There's 1,800 licensed hospices in the L.A. County area, which is more than 6 times the national average for the county's senior population. It's just, and you enrich these criminals, and then they get powerful, and they donate to Democrats probably, and other places, and then they get more entrenched.
This doctor's 69 years old. She's retired. She probably has a lot of she probably retired because trying to avoid getting accused of Medicare fraud because you miscoded something. Oh, my gosh, you coded it a 99213 when we think it was a 99212. Oh, you're a fraudulent. I'm sorry. I thought it was a higher level of, sir. I'm sorry, Mr. Medicare. Whoa, you're fraudulent. fraudulent. Oh, I got to hire 5 people, and then I got to bill the taxpayers and the private insurance companies more to try to comply with Medicare. Medicare be gone. Medicare be gone. Medicare be gone.
I don't think California's checking anything. I think they're just passing on those federal dollars to whatever criminals.
All the taxes that we pay to go for Medicare on your Medicare tax and all that throughout your life, if you could just, like Social Security, which I also haven't found in my Constitution when I flame it. I don't see anything there that the government should guarantee your eternal retirement. I don't see that. I don't get that.
Well, I mean,
if you could keep your money and invest it and buy a private health care plan that you wanted to buy that fits your needs, everything would be fine. You know, I'm sorry. I hope this doctor is an advocate for getting government the heck out of our health care. She wouldn't have had this problem.
Well, they need to go after the fraudsters. And Scott Bessent did make an announcement about Minnesota and how they're going to go after not just the fraudsters in Minnesota, but their enablers as well.
Civil enforcement is auditing financial institutions that facilitated the laundering of Minnesota funds, in addition to helping support criminal and civil enforcement efforts. The IRS will also soon announce the formation of a task force.
Wow.
So if all of a sudden all this money is going to Somalia, maybe that should have raised alarm bells. I don't know. I don't know what they're going to find when they do that investigation.
I can't agree with you more that these programs exist and there is massive fraud, pushing the limits, all kind of bureaucracy about complying with these programs and then enforcing these programs. What if we just kept our money and we just did business with the people that I don't understand all of this shell game redistribution. We live in the United Socialist States of America. That's the problem.
Well, do you think all the wives should be trad wives? Sheryl Sandberg just called out the trad wives. I think we got to talk about that.
John's going to report on trad wives later. Morning Bell coming up.
It's Wake Up Missouri.
Wake up, Missouri. As we're watching things escalate in Iran, they have hit a couple of tankers. They're hitting land assets in Oman, in the UAE, other places that hold like storage depot for oil. Things are escalating. We're seeing what that does with the markets. Jennifer's in for Stephanie. How's it looking?
Well, it's looking like the markets, the futures are slightly down. S&P down 0.81%. Dow Jones Industrial Average down 0.98%. The Wall Street Journal Index up 0.21%. So the dollar is down compared to the pound. Crude oil up 8.39%. Gold slightly up. Silver up almost 2%. So
the Dow is down from its highs, near 50,000.
It is
down to 47.4 now. So things are really tanking in the Dow. NASDAQ, flat yesterday. So things are not pretty in the markets, but it's going to. The president says this is going to be short term. Where that goalpost is, we don't know.
Short term pain, long term gain.
Yeah. And meanwhile, 7 ships were hit in the Mideast over the past day. It's getting under the skin of those people in the Gulf, those kingdoms and Gulf states that depend on oil for their income. Oman and Qatar, and Oman is pretty much, what were we told by one expert? Pretty much a gas station in the Middle East.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. So. Oil prices have jumped. They're flirting with $100 a barrel, despite the announcement that we're going to release oil from our strategic reserves.
Is that a good idea?
That's above my pay grade, Randy.
I never thought it was a good idea, just by the definition of it being called the strategic reserve. Presumption was that originally it was for the military in time of war.
Right. That's how.
That stuff doesn't last forever. Doesn't it? Or is that just gasoline?
I don't know. Dead dinosaurs are billions of years old. So.
But once, as a prepper, you can only keep gasoline for 9 months before it degrades significantly. So you got to refresh that stuff anyway. I don't know if you have to refresh the crude oil though.
But I agree with John. Wouldn't you want that for the rainiest of days when you're fighting war on 1 or 2 or 3 fronts, which could happen?
It is a war, though. We are in a war.
But I'm saying, if you're Xi, and if you want to take over Taiwan, isn't this when you want to do it?
Not when you don't have access to oil. It's not.
Oh, he's got access to Russian. He's got Russian oil.
Well, they got to get stuff through that Strait of Hormuz, apparently.
But as it relates to us, I'd rather pay more, and we'll argue about whether the initiative that led to me paying more and you paying more and every American paying more, whether that was a good or bad thing, history will decide. But for the time being, I'd rather keep our powder dry and our oil in the tanks, so to speak.
I'm going to give Trump the benefit of the doubt on this. I think he's earned it.
573-874-9390 on releasing strategic oil reserve. Well, were you supportive of Joe Biden doing that to keep prices down? I don't recall that.
I don't recall liking much of anything.
I want to be principled and consistent, and therefore I didn't approve of that just politically to keep prices down. I don't approve of it with Donald Trump.
I trust Trump's judgment a whole lot more than Biden's.
No, I'm talking about this particular policy.
Yeah, and when to use it, and I trust Trump's judgment more.
So it's okay if Trump does it, and then it was okay if Biden did it.
I'm not saying that. I trust his judgment that it's appropriate to do it now more than I did Biden's.
I think just local.
single cultural narrative that is being shoved in the faces of young girls is telling them that marriage is going to hold you back. It's going to ruin your career, your personal life, your sense of autonomy. None of those narratives are true, but trying to overcome the barrage of information that our academic institutions, Hollywood, our politicians, and so many more have been telling young women is certainly an uphill battle, but it's never been more important for us to fight for the family.
That's Isabel Brown fighting for traditional roles for women. Says doesn't have to get in the way of your career. You can emphasize your children, your marriage. But tech exec Sheryl Sandberg, formerly of Meta, right, the COO there, says that most women need to work outside the home to financially support their families. Jennifer Bukowski, in for Stephanie Bell. She has the answer.
This
I'm staying low on this
This
one.
debate has been going on my entire life. There's this kind of, I wouldn't say war, but there's just pressures that women feel. Like, do you work? Do you not work? And this trad wife movement has been taking off where it's like a pushback against, like when I was growing up, the message of, oh, what do you want to be when you grow up? You weren't supposed to say housewife. And so this trad wife thing is really like thumbing their nose at that and being like, that's what you should say you want to grow up to be. And Sheryl Sandberg is like, you also need the message to girls that you don't have to be a trad wife and fall to these like outdated roles of like the man is the head of the household, et cetera. Because some of these trad wives take it pretty far. But there's nothing wrong with staying home. But she does make a good point.
How do they take it
you
far?
need to marry a guy that can support all of the whole family if you're not going to work. And not everyone has that option, especially lower income people.
Is there an argument to be made that this whole argument, she says most women need to work to financially, could it be that as the feminist movement got rolling, as more and more women, more and more workers who happen to be women got into the workforce, that diluted the earnings capacity of men just on a supply and demand basis? Therefore, it was a self-fulfilling prophecy that, well, we talk about illegal immigrants.
Yeah, you're like making women sound like illegal immigrants right now.
No, I am not. No, everyone knows exactly what I'm saying. When you add workers into a workforce,
it's called competition, Randy.
No. That's fine. I'm asking the question. When you have X amount of work and you had Y amount of workers earning Z amount, and then you have Y plus whatever amount of workers, the earners of Z workers goes down.
Yeah, it could be.
Okay, therefore you have a self-fulfilling prophecy. But that doesn't mean that we
shouldn't have evolved as a society and allowed people to participate in the workforce.
What led to the reality of men not being able to support a household?
Well, we also have much higher standard of living now. It used to be like, I don't know, not that long ago that $1 in $5 of a household went to food. Now it's like 1 in 25.
I support women working. Don't get me wrong. I'm just asking.
People didn't have 2 cars. They didn't all have phones.
Look, I've provided health care for women my whole life, and I've watched them struggle trying to manage home, work, kids. And I think men for a long time had coming out of a more traditional, environment like I did, and maybe John did. I don't know. We maybe weren't as supportive and as doing as much domestic stuff because that wasn't the way I was raised. And so it's been an evolution for men to become more active in domestic duties. But while that's going on, women have continued to carry the flag in a lot of roles. And it's tough on women. I see it all the time in the office. I see it all the time.
Yeah, I think what Sheryl Sandberg is saying is a balanced approach because she's just pointing out, like, just as it's not okay to shame women who choose to stay at home if they have that luxury. There's nothing wrong with making that choice. It's also not great to shame women who have to work or who choose to work because she said that the traditional movement is shaming women who can't afford to stay at home or who choose to work. And they are. Yeah. They absolutely are. I feel it. Like I'm being judged that I'm not sitting at home making all homemade food and I'm not like that's not my whole life, that I have other interests and I do other things.
Well, you're being judged if you do what?
By the trad wife community.
But don't you
think
I'm
out of my lane?
Isn't it fair to say that
and it's ironic because they're like
women,
podcasters and stuff, which is I'm on the radio, but they'll be judgy about me being a lawyer and a podcaster. Well, they are podcasting themselves, so you're not completely trad, are you?
But I think the trad wife is probably a reaction to what was the shaming of women who stayed home.
It's a pendulum.
Right.
I agree.
That's what I'm saying.
So the pendulum was like, no, you can't say housewife. You can't. And now it's like, oh, trad wives are like, you can't say you're going to work. That's bad for your family. And don't you care about family? And we need to be just more tolerant that different women and families will make different choices and have different choices available to them.
I just think that if we had a different economic environment, however we get there, maybe women or men, whoever, wouldn't feel the need to be working to support whatever standard of living we have right now. Yeah.
I mean,
well, everyone's about to be out of a job, so we'll find out.
Yeah.
Well, Randy,
right.
You were talking earlier about how it's the workers, how there's more workers, they're paying less wages. So I look at it at the other angle, that now that there are dual income houses and families, that they can just raise the price of houses and other stuff like that.
That's because the money is out there, so the prices go up. Yeah. No, I get it. It's it's sort of a chicken and egg question, right? As women entered the workforce, and did that, I mean, if you're in an office and only men were working, okay, let's go back to Leave It to Beaver, right? And June Cleaver had the dress and she had the pearl necklace on when he came in the door with his suit and tie, and they ate with a suit and tie.
You look lovely today, Mrs. Cleaver.
Yeah, but the point is, okay, there was, in an office, the office was doing the office's work, and there were 10 men in the office. Well, now you've got 18 people wanting to work in that office, entering the job force, and still X amount of work. If I'm the boss of that office, I'm going, well, who will work? I don't think I need to pay as many. I don't need that many workers. So there's an oversupply of workers, so I'm going to pay them less. Whoever last man standing or last woman standing works in the office. I just think that we created this sort of environment where suddenly there's this essential need for two people working. And I think it's been hard for the households, for the kids. We've seen that. It's hard when you have mom and dad aren't there and latchkey kids and stuff, right? It's difficult to manage that. People do it, and then that creates an artificial need for daycare. Don't get me started there. That's fine if you want to do daycare. I don't want to pay for it. That's not my role as a citizen.
You never did pay for me providing childcare.
Of course I didn't for you, but the government's talking about subsidizing daycare? What?
Yeah, I don't understand that. That seems to be so prevalent all of a sudden, and I don't remember that being a thing growing up, like that anyone got free daycare, especially like now if the parents don't even have to be working and they get daycare because they might be out looking for jobs. So, but they're really at a motel smoking crack and they get to drop their kids off at daycare every day. That might be better for the kid, but
I'm sensitive to the cost of daycare. Don't get me wrong here. I'm trying to be principled and asking, how is it that business people who support conservative candidates at the Chamber of Commerce and all of these business groups, and our friend Brad Jones, I haven't asked him that tough question. I'll have to ask him next time. Brad, come on. You want government out of your hair in the business, but you want them supporting daycare for your workers. Hello? I mean, I just want us to be principled. We're conservatives. Pinch yourself. I'll be conservative as long as it doesn't affect me. But if I need something from you as the taxpayer, I'm not as conservative then. After all, it's an essential thing, government. Really?
Hey, welcome to the Chamber of Commerce. That's pretty much what they are all about.
I'm sorry. I'm going to call truth to power. I don't care where it exists. And I think that it would serve us well as conservatives to continue to. The Independent Women's Forum, who we talk to occasionally, they are not in favor of subsidized daycare.
Yeah.
Independent women, working women with families.
Yeah, and they're not trad wives, and there's nothing wrong with that. And so trad wives shouldn't be shaming the working women, and the working women shouldn't be shaming the trad wives.
But
different women make different choices.
But I think it's a shame that we live in an environment where many women would like to not have to work, but they do because they need to work to support their family.
Yeah, and their standard of living that they want.
I think that's because they're being overtaxed. I think we're all being overtaxed. So imagine if you could keep that, if you and your employer could keep that almost 13% you pay to Social Security. Wow, how's that working out for you? Imagine if you had that money in your pocket.
It'd be very helpful.
Imagine if you weren't paying 30, 40, 20, whatever percent between state, government, local taxes. If you weren't paying that to the government and you had that money, well, you want to work? Great. Because you enjoy working? Beautiful. Have at it. You don't want to work? Great. You don't have to work.
Well, with technology,
keep your
there's
money,
more...
folks. Don't give it to the government.
Technology has allowed a lot more flexibility with work, too. It's allowed, like, I don't know, either spouse to pick up extra shifts delivering different things or driving people around. You can work from home doing calls, like when your kid's napping. So there's a blend, and there's different phases of life. Like, I probably worked too much when my kids were really little. I should have slowed it down then, and then now they don't care. They're teens. They don't need me as much. I could work
don't kid
the
yourself.
crazy hour weeks.
They need
now.
you. Until the day you die, they need you. Your kids need you.
I don't know. The older one seems to be done with my services.
I'm having more fun
He's
with my
pretty
kids now than we ever had. And we have great fun with our adult kids. That's great. We kid one another and we laugh at one another and we support one another. It's a great thing. Here's the other thing. I think that it's incumbent on us to try to really get back to our fundamental principles of what is government about. And we need to ask those questions of our politicians in this election cycle. Government's about fighting wars, keeping us safe, keeping our borders clean, a justice system that works to protect us, both criminally and civilly. Yeah?
Yeah.
And enforce contracts on the civil side. Pretty simple. And
it does. Yeah,
if we just ask not what your government can do for you, but what you can do for yourself without that government. I bastardized John Kennedy a little bit.
I like that version.
I think it would work out
the government
very
is
well.
not the answer.
Right.
And also, is more freedom the answer? That should be the start of every problem. Is like every time people are like, oh, we have this problem, let's get the government involved to solve it. How about what's the government doing to cause it?
Yes.
Is more freedom the answer? That should be your starting position.
Absolutely.
That more freedom might be the answer to this problem.
And when people need help, if we kept our money, we'd be able to help them through private means, through philanthropy, through your faith organization, your non-faith, secular, or your United Way. There's ways to help people without the bureaucracy and the massive vacuum sucking sound of a bureaucracy called the government. Can Tim hang on through the break? Okay, Tim, hang on. We'll take you after the break. Stay tuned.
It's Wake Up Missouri.
There are crazy positions on the far left and crazy positions on the far right. On the left, there are people who believe a man can get pregnant, that the world is going to end in a decade if we don't cap carbon emissions, that the real purpose of the American Revolution was to preserve slavery. On the right, there are people who deny the Holocaust happened, who believe that whites are inherently superior to other races, that no one should pay taxes. But there's an important difference between these two extremes. The crazies on the right have no voice. They are shunned. They live mostly on the far fringes of the internet. The crazies on the left have a loud voice. They are celebrated. They live in the halls of Congress, in state legislatures, and in governors' mansions. In light of this distinction, it might be interesting to ask ourselves this question: which group, the left or the right, is more radical? We can arrive at a common sense answer by posing this thought experiment. What would America look like if the left got everything it wanted, and what would America look like if the right got everything it wanted? Let's start with the left. Taxes would go up on individuals and corporations to pay for more social programs. Everything from universal child care to free college tuition. Many on the left call for income taxes as high as 70%. Private health insurance would be abolished. The government would provide all healthcare services. Everyone in the medical field, from doctors, nurses, and administrators, would be government employees. Americans would pay for this government health care through much higher taxes. Illegal immigration would be decriminalized. It would still be illegal to enter the country without proper documentation, but no one who made it into the U.S. would be prosecuted for doing so. Illegal immigrants would also receive free health care, free education, and free housing. The Green New Deal would be adopted. Hundreds of billions of dollars of subsidies for wind and solar power would be added to the federal budget. Drilling for fossil fuels, the current source of 80% of our energy, would be sharply curtailed or eliminated altogether. So would nuclear power. As a result, consumers' electric bills would be much higher. Reparations would be paid for the past injustice of slavery. How it would be paid and exactly to whom is not clear. Legally acquiring a gun would become much more difficult. College debt would be canceled. Those who had already paid for college would get nothing. Transgender women, biological men who identify as women, would be allowed to compete against women in sports. America's military budget would be slashed by 25 to 50%. Speech codes would be enforced throughout American life. And that's just a partial list. Now let's ask what would happen if the right got what it wanted. Income taxes would be cut. Capital gains taxes would be cut. Corporate taxes would be cut. And those cuts would be made permanent. All regulations that make doing business unnecessarily difficult and don't protect public health would be repealed. The issue of abortion would be sent back to the states for each state to decide its own abortion rules for itself. Many more charter schools would be opened, and it would become much easier to fire bad teachers. In order to vote, citizens would need to present a valid ID. The border with Mexico would be secured. The only way to enter the United States would be through designated border crossings. In order to qualify for welfare assistance, you would have to prove you could not work. The healthcare system would be open to free market reforms. For example, insurance companies could sell policies across state lines. Students in elementary school would recite the Pledge of Allegiance at the start of each school day. So what can we conclude from our experiment? It's not hard to figure out. If the right got everything it wanted, the government would get much smaller. The citizen would have more freedom. If the left got everything it wanted, the government would get much bigger. The citizen would have less freedom. You're not radical if you want America to be what it's always been, committed to individual liberty. You're only radical if you want to fundamentally transform America into something it's never been. Which country do you want to live in? I'm Will Witt for Prager University.
Like that bumper. 573-874-9390. Tim is on the line. Before we first, go ahead, Tim.
Hey, yeah, the problem is we're giving, money to people and they get to sit at home and do nothing. When they need to have some type of volunteer requirement or whatever, you got people that are partially disabled. Or, even I got this one veteran guy I know makes $2,000 a month because he's got a little mental issue or whatever. And now he wants to try and get Social Security too. I'm like, no, you are capable of working. You're maybe not capable of someone wanting to pay you $20 an hour because you have whatever issue. But if you volunteer at a daycare so they don't have to have 8 people covering the kids or volunteer. Yeah. There's so much work to be done.
You're right.
We need people to have to show up to get their subsidy.
You're right. That's the biggest complaint every time we talk to Brad Jones from the NFIB is people can't, owners of businesses can't find people to do the work. And yet we have a lot of people that in one way or another could probably fulfill a lot of those jobs. It may be a part-time basis, whatever. Thanks, Tim. Appreciate it. You're right. Okay. What do you have for leftover, Jen?
Well, apparently Kansas has revoked 1,700 driver's licenses for Kansans who claim to be another sex than they actually are after a state law banning ID changes based on gender identity went into effect last month. Kansas is one of 5 states to prohibit trans people from changing their gender marker on their licenses. I'm okay with that, but I don't know if I like the fact that they just revoked the licenses of 1,700 people who already had licenses, along with a letter saying that their driver's licenses are invalid immediately and they may be subject to additional penalties if they continue to drive unless they receive a new one with their birth sex. What about notice? Like, give them 90 days or something.
They didn't give them any warning?
Is not. They just gave them. Apparently, there was a lawsuit trying to stop this law from going into effect, but that just seems too harsh to me, not compassionate. You're the one that issued the driver's licenses to begin with, so you should give people a notice if you're going to change your requirements so that they can't have. I kind of like the idea of not letting people put a different sex on their license than they are.
Right.
But I don't like the idea of just revoking driver's licenses retroactively and making it effective immediately. That seems
I don't
unfair.
know. Norm Stewart would say, if you're dumb enough to live in Kansas and root for the Jayhawks, you got it coming.
Missouri guys just hate Kansas. They hate Kansas.
Oh, man. All right. Well, I think that's right. I mean, if you're going to revoke someone's license, give them a little warning, unless it's revocation for some kind of infraction or
No, they issued these licenses to these folks. So
just for being trans.
I mean, it's a big deal to have your driver's license all of a sudden invalid.
I know. Drake knows about that. No, I'm kidding you. I'm kidding you, Drake.
Because then it makes it a crime to drive a car. It's a crime to drive a car.
Tell us more, Drake. No.
Well, I was just about to say 1,700 people doesn't sound like a lot, but that's like half of the population of Kansas right there.
Pretty much.
Yeah, they have that many in Kansas.
What do you have? What do you have, Drake?
Your Missouri Tigers are playing Kentucky at 11:30 a.m. today.
Oh, wow.
So we're going to have some fun. Maybe we'll make it and play Florida tomorrow.
Is SEC tournament?
SEC tournament.
First round?
Yep. No, second round technically because we had the bye.
Oh.
So Kentucky played yesterday.
So we earned a bye.
Yep.
Wow. All right, Coach Gates and guys, get them. My wife's probably going to be rooting from the office. I bet, she was hanging out with, what's his name, Robinson the other day?
Yeah.
Yeah, she was hanging out with all of them over at Hy-Vee for, first name basis with those.
Here's Guzzling Orange Crush with the Missouri
all the side, I see her and all the Tigers on the Orange Crush. I'm going, oh, my God, my wife's got new boyfriends. What's going on? Drake, what do you have? She was there. They were doing some kind of a promotional thing. Okay, what do you have, John? Anything?
Yeah, but I think we'll save it for our newscast. Stay tuned. Worst case of child abuse they've ever seen in Texas County.
Oh, no.
Don Luzader has much more.
Mr. Poopy Pants to end the show today, Mr. John Marsh. Hey, hope you'll join us tomorrow. Thanks, Jen.
Thanks
Great
for having
being
me.
with you. All right, we'll be back tomorrow. Steph will be back in then. We'll see you then.